Ba-doom, boom. Hey, there we go. Todd, are you teaching in 2 weeks? Okay, next week and in 2. Okay, good. Good, good. Chase just asked if I could preach in 2 weeks. I was like, oh yeah, of course. I was like, Good, good, good. All right, guys. Hey, welcome to Proverbs. We're going to be in Proverbs 2 today. Come as close as you can so I don't wander. It's just you guys loving the people on their couches. Because I'll tell you what, I will wander. I will wander. So come close. Come close. I'll give you about 10 seconds to make your big moves. Here we go. This is a class on application, right? Wisdom is knowledge applied. And so the knowledge is Andrew will walk all over the sanctuary. Knowledge applied is move closer, so Andrew doesn't have to walk all over the sanctuary. Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys. All right. These people in the back, they think I won't, but I'm coming back. Hey, if anybody wants some of my special notes, I've got some special note-taking paper for you. Does anybody need some? No? You? Yeah? All right. Good, good, good. This is about as outlined as I get when it comes to notes. Did you want to or no? No? Okay. Yeah? Yeah. I tried really hard this week. I was like, I can make some. I couldn't do it. I tried. But it didn't work. So if anybody needs more, it's right there. But let's open up with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity today to open your word together and dive into it. God, we ask for humility as we approach your word, God. We know that all wisdom comes from you. And that's what we're going to look at today, Lord. And I ask that we would come with that approach, God, with that posture. Help us to come humble and teachable and ready, Lord. I ask that you would teach me even as I'm trying to walk through this today, God. Help us to be wise and help us to apply the knowledge that we gain and that we have. In your name we pray. Amen. So, quick review. Who remembers what is wisdom? We talked about wisdom a lot last week. What is wisdom? Knowing how to apply knowledge. That's good. Yeah. Yep. Knowing how to apply knowledge. Anything else? What else comes to mind when we think of wisdom? That was good. Man, that was the answer I had. What's that?
Fear of the Lord.
Fear of the Lord, right? That's where it starts. It all starts with the fear of the Lord. Good. What else? Anything else? Nothing else? Man, we could have made class a lot shorter last week, right? 2 points. No, that's right. It starts with the fear of the Lord, and it is knowledge applied. It's the application of what we know. What's that? Obedience. Yeah. I was reading a little bit of Wayne Grudem this week, which is not normal for me. The more you get to know me, the more you learn that I like to listen to things on Audible versus reading. But I was actually reading the words of Wayne Grudem. He was talking about how wisdom is the correct application of the knowledge, right, in the best way possible. So when we think about God's wisdom, God applies all the knowledge in the absolute best way possible. Who has an example of sometime in your life whenever maybe you or someone you know applied limited knowledge really well, but man, if we'd have just had a little bit more knowledge, it would have made all the difference. Have you ever thought about that? Who can think of a time whenever they applied the knowledge they had really well? The problem was they didn't have enough knowledge.
A student who doesn't go to class.
What's that?
A student who doesn't go to class.
A student who doesn't go to class. Yep. That was me a couple times. In undergrad, never now. In undergrad, mostly.
Think any major decision you make in your life, like a career change, anything like that, or a move that you're thinking about
taking, a promotion, even could be that.
Yeah. Oh, there's so much we don't know in those situations, isn't there? I mean, that's really good. And that's one, so what he said, any kind of major career change, any kind of move, geographic shift, any kind of major life shift, we really got to go to the Lord and seek out wisdom from him. So much because we just don't have all the information. Right? It's a new situation, new circumstances, something we're not familiar with. We just don't have, yeah. Holy cow. Yes, parenting. Yeah. Just out of curiosity, how many parents are in the room today? How many people have kids? Okay. How many people were a kid at one time? All right, that's good. That's good. A couple people not. I feel you. No, that's good. That's good. Yeah, parenting, man, that's quite the thing. Well, today we're going to be in Proverbs 2, and we're going to talk about treasures of the heart. But before we read Proverbs 2, we're going to read it all the way through right here to start us out. So start turning to Proverbs 2. Before we do that, I just want to touch base on the 3 levels of engagement that we talked about last week. One is show up to class, ready to learn, ready to listen, ready to engage and participate. The second level, a little bit deeper, is read one proverb every day. The third level is read the entire book of Proverbs every week. Right? Those are the 3 levels of engagement. And last week we wanted to start thinking about actively, very proactively, which level we were going to do. Okay? So the level that I wanted to do was I wanted to read through the entire book of Proverbs every week. I think I got to Proverbs 18 this week. I think that's where I ended up. Okay? So just a little bit of accountability, right? Just a little bit of, our goal here is wisdom. It's knowledge applied. And so we're gonna be building our skill in life together. So part of that is setting goals and making them. Part of that is setting goals and not making them, and then making them the next time. Right? So that's where I was at. So I just want you to think really quick as we're turning to Proverbs 2. Did I reach the goal that I set out for this week? Just think about it. Reflect. Just take a moment. Did I reach the goal that I set out for this week? Okay? Just a thought. We're going to keep circling back to that. I'm not going to make everybody say, oh yeah, I made it or I didn't make it. We're not quite that familiar yet. Right? Maybe someday we'll be that familiar. I don't want to embarrass anybody except for myself. That's all right. So did I reach the goal that I set? Okay? And then let's shoot for reaching that goal this week. All right. Who would like to read Proverbs chapter 2? We're going to go through the whole chapter. Would anybody like to read that for us? Thank you. I appreciate it. It's Sunday morning, Andrew. We're not awake yet. That's all right.
Proverbs chapter 2, it says, My son, if you receive my words and treasure up my commandments with you, making your ear attentive to wisdom and inclining your heart to understanding, yes, if you call out for insight and raise your voice for understanding, if you seek it like silver and search for it as for hidden treasures, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. For the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. He stores up sound wisdom for the upright. He is a shield to those who walk in integrity, guarding the paths of justice and watching over the way of his saints. Then you will understand righteousness and justice, and equity, every good path. For wisdom will come into your heart, and knowledge will be pleasant to your soul. Discretion will watch over you. Understanding will guard you, delivering you from the way of evil, from men of perverted speech, who forsake the paths of uprightness to walk in the ways of darkness, who rejoice in doing evil and delight in the perverseness of evil, men whose paths are crooked and who are devious in their ways. So you will be delivered from the forbidden woman, from the adulteress with her smooth words, who forsakes the companion of her youth and forgets the covenant of her God. For her house sinks down to death, and her paths to the departed. None who go to her come back, nor do they regain the paths of life. So you will walk in the way of the good and keep to the paths of the righteous. For the upright will inhabit the land, and those with integrity will remain in it. But the wicked will be cut off from the land, and the treacherous will be rooted out of it.
Thank you so much. So we're talking a lot about treasures of the heart today. So when I think about treasures of the heart, I've got 6 little kids. My oldest one is 12, and he's a boy. The other 5 are all girls. So treasures of the heart in our household have a lot of emotional baggage to them, right? I mean, it is just, when they're happy, they're happy. When they're sad, oh my goodness, there is so much sadness. And it's wonderful. So my question is, what are some things as a kid that you longed for? What are some things when you were a kid that you were just like, oh, I'm so much looking forward to this? Maybe it was a trip, maybe it was a certain toy, maybe it was a Red Ryder BB gun, right? Like the kid in Christmas Story. What are some things? So shout out. What are some things that you longed for as a kid? To go swimming. Oh my goodness. Every kid just loves. It doesn't matter if it's 40 degrees outside, does it, when you're a kid? You just want to go swimming. Good. What else? Christmas morning. Oh man. Christmas morning. Yeah. Anything specific on a Christmas morning that you can remember? Were you ever like, oh man, that's the one?
Just excited to open up presents.
All right.
And give presents to my mom and dad.
Nice. Just the whole thing of presents. Yeah, good. What else? Playing baseball. Were you any good? She says yes. You couldn't hit a curveball. Sorry, nobody can hit curveballs. You hit curveballs, you go pro. Playing baseball. Yeah, what else? Ice skating. Were you like a figure skater or a hockey player? Oh, okay. You never know, right? Amateur. Okay. All right. Ice skating. Good. What else? Roller skating. Man, those old roller rinks back in the day, those were a party. What else? Sleigh riding with a real horse in real snow? Oh man. I've only done that once in my life. It's pretty amazing. That's really cool. What else? Just looked forward to so much as a kid. You wanted to chatty Cathy?
That's all I could think about.
Did you?
A doll that could pull the string and talk.
I'm so glad they don't make those anymore. I couldn't handle it as a parent. I would cut the string. It would be sinful. Did you ever get the chatty Cathy? Did you get it? Do you still have it? She is. I'm not even going to say that. The people at home, I can't. So it doesn't talk anymore. So when you got those things that you looked for, how did it make you feel? Happy? Was there joy? A lot of joy. Was there ever disappointment? Were you ever like, oh man, and again, I don't know why the Christmas Story movie is just on my mind, right? That kid, he worked so hard, ate so much sugar cereal to get, what was it, the decoder ring? And the whole thing was, what was it, drink more milk? I mean, it was just an advertisement. He was so disappointed. Has anybody ever been disappointed in one of those things? Have you ever felt that? You just like longed for it and it wasn't what your mind told you it would be? That happens. So that was kids. That's fun. What are some things that adults long for? Maybe your friends, or unnamed people in your life. But what are some things that just adults in general long for, seek after? More money. Good. What else? Retirement. Come on now, I'm ready for that. What else? Children. Yeah, absolutely. What else? Vacations. I hear that. Taking my daughter to Chicago next Sunday. I'm so excited. That's all she wanted for her birthday, so that's what we're going to do. We'll see if it lives up to her expectations. What else? What else do adults long for? Promotion. Yeah. Yeah. What else? There's more than those four. Some of us long for church, right? Right? As we mature, it's not always like that in life, but man, what a sweet place when God gets us there. Absolutely. Absolutely. What else do adults long for? Dream car, dream house, yeah. Yep. What else? Andrew, is it okay to think about what we wish for? We're in church. Like we're
I'll say it for Rich, your sports team will do well.
So that sets us up for longing and disappointment all at once. I appreciate that. That your sports team will do well. Good. Good health. Yeah. What are some of the things that we will do to make those things come to pass? Or that people will do? Work more hours. That's right. If I can work 90 hours a week, I can make enough money to buy enough things, to go on that vacation, to drive that car, whatever. If I can just work a little harder. What else do we do? What else do we do to get these things? Change our priorities. Absolutely. Well, and it's interesting with that one. Sometimes we don't realize that we're doing it, do we? We're just like, well, I need to work a little more overtime, or I need to not work overtime so I can, whatever my goal is, and it starts to happen. One thing that I see with people my age is, I got a couple friends. We grew up together in the church. They love the Lord a lot. They've got some excessively talented kids. I mean, they're just like really talented. Like, my kids are probably not going to play major sports or like major league anything. Probably not. These kids might. But they're only at church half the year because of all the travel sports teams they do. And it creeped up on them. And I was talking to the dad one time. I was like, dude, what happened? He's like, well, we started doing it, and it just got more and more, and we're only a couple years away from being done with it, and then we'll be back at church more. I was like, oh my goodness, right? Our priorities, they just slip sometimes. They do. I'm going to suggest a few more things that we'll do. And again, I'm not saying this about people, present company or at home right now, but just as human beings, we're inherently sinful, right? We're pretty wicked. And I think if we look outside of our own homes, it's easy to point out wickedness. But I think if we look inside our own hearts, if we're honest, it's really easy to see that wickedness. Sometimes we'll cheat, lie, steal, cut corners, bend truths, be deceptive, tell half-truths to get what we want. There was a time whenever, this is hard to admit, whenever we were first married, Tanya and I could not be trusted, right? And I had some accountability partners that sat me down and they said, Andrew, you may not carry cash, right? You're going to use it in a bad way, in a sinful way. You may not carry cash. If you want the specifics of that story, I'm happy to share those with you transparently, more privately. I remember that, and I was on board. They were right for that situation, for my untrustworthiness. They were right, and that was protocol in my house. I did not carry cash, and Tanya was very thankful for those partners. Today, look at this. I'm so excited. I remember the first day that I had cash in my wallet, and I didn't know how much it was. That was so monumental. Right now, I don't even know how much I have right now. I have $40. That's pretty cool. I thought it was more, but it's not. But it doesn't matter because I'm trustworthy with it now. God's brought me such a long way. In those days, I would lie to my wife so that I could, oh yeah, I bought whatever, and lie. And what's that called? Is that called, it's a white collar crime. What is it, embezzlement? Right? We are so wicked, and we will do anything to get what we want. Let's look at Proverbs 2. Let's look at Proverbs 2, starting in chapter 1 and verse 1. My son, if you receive my words and treasure up my commands within you, making your ear attentive to wisdom and inclining your heart to understanding. Yes, if you call out for insight and raise your voice for understanding, if you seek it like silver and search for it as for hidden treasure. Do you see that? If you pursue it. Notice how it poetically ramps up. It starts out, and if you're taking notes, this is a place that I would take notes. Verse 1, be receptive to wisdom. If you receive my words and treasure up my commands within you, that's a very passive thing. I can receive Jeff's words. I can hear the words he says. As I think about it as a parent of a bunch of young kids, I think, can I talk to my child in a quiet room and they hear me? Just me and the kid. And Maddie, my 4-year-old, told me she really wants me to mention her and tell a story about her. So Maddie, here you go. If I can sit in a room with Maddie and we can converse, right? That's this level. Verse 2. Making your ear attentive to wisdom and inclining your heart to understanding. The first one is be receptive to wisdom. The second one is be attentive to wisdom. Can I have a conversation with Maddie in a crowded and noisy room? My answer is sometimes. My goal for my kids is I want to be in a room and be able to say their name, be able to call them and say, hey, Maddie, and I want her to hear my voice. I don't have to yell at her. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm not great. We're in process, right? We're in process. But that's the goal. Am I attentive? Am I intentionally listening? Have I inclined my ear? Have I trained my ear to hear the voice of wisdom? This is more than passive now. Now there's an active element to it. Verse 3. Yes, if you call out for insight and raise your voice for understanding. Now it's active. Right? We went from extremely passive to a little bit more active to now it's full on active. It's my kid, and here's how I think about it in kid terms. Are we lost in a crowded room? I remember as a kid, we were at Cracker Barrel one time, and I went up to, I got separated from my parents, but I didn't know it. And you grab Dad's leg, and Dad's leg stops moving. I'm like, well, that's weird, and I just stand there for a little bit, and finally I look up, and there's a stranger looking down at me like, what is going on, man? Scared the bit. Has that ever happened to anybody? Scares you so bad. I think there's security. I'm with Dad. And then it's the opposite. And now, I'm running around Cracker Barrel looking for Dad. Okay? So at this point, Dad, where are you at? Am I shouting for it? Am I calling to it? Am I actively pleading with wisdom to come to me? It's not just I have ears for that. It's not just I'm training my ear for that. Now I'm actively calling out to it. I'm actively pursuing it. I'm actively saying, wisdom, wisdom, come to me, wisdom. Where are you, wisdom? But it doesn't stop there. Let's look at verse 4. It just keeps ramping up. So far in my mind, the notes would be receptive to wisdom, verse 1, be attentive to wisdom, verse 2, be calling for wisdom, verse 3, and verse 4, be seeking wisdom. If you seek it like silver and search for it as hidden treasures. Not only is my kid calling out to me, he's frantically running around the store. Asking people, have you seen my dad? I don't know what your dad looks like, right? He's bigger than me and he looks like me, right? Like, have you seen my dad? Everybody knows my dad. And it's a little frantic in that situation, right? What parable does this remind you of? Seeking for treasure. What parables come to mind when we think about this? What was some of Jesus' teaching? Call it out. Pearl of great price. Right? What about the merchant who sees the pearl? It's the one. What does he do? He sells everything so he can acquire that. That's seeking treasure. I'll do anything to get it. As you get to know me, you'd be really surprised that I'm in seminary right now and that I haven't flunked out, right? I mean, like, really surprised. I don't particularly enjoy academics. Right? So God clearly called me here and clearly equipped me and clearly changed my heart for it. When I was an undergrad at Moody Bible Institute back in the early 2000s, I loved Jesus, hated school, and towards the end of my time, I started failing classes like a crazy man. And I did graduate. But in the middle of this, like, epic season of failure, I found this girl. Man, she was hot. I was like, oh, man. It was Tanya, my wife. And everybody's like, wait, you can't say. So it was my wife. It's okay. And I was like, I need to get this girl. And so I pursued her. And I was like, hey, how you doing? You want to be my girlfriend? And she said no. And I was like, what? I'm amazing. And you're amazing. This could be amazing. And she's like, no, you're not amazing. You're failing every class you have. You don't do your homework. Understand how much I hated doing homework. I mean, I would do anything but homework. My room was really clean during that semester because I would clean instead of do homework. I hate cleaning. Those next 3 weeks, I did more homework than I did that entire school year. I mean, I was the picture of diligence because I had a treasure that I wanted. I sold everything to get that treasure. I wanted that woman. And if you know my wife, you'd be like, yeah, that was a smart choice, Andrew. And so I did my homework. And a couple weeks later, I was like, how you doing? I've been doing my homework. And she was like, ooh, this might work. I stopped doing my homework the day after she said yes to be my girlfriend because I'm a wicked person, right? And I really was just in it to get the girl. But I got what I wanted. I changed a lot. It was painful. I changed a lot to get that treasure. That's what he's talking about. What are you willing to change? What are you willing to sacrifice? Some of you guys are thinking like, I'm never going to go to this guy for marriage or dating advice. Like, what are you willing to sacrifice to get wisdom? What are you willing to change to chase after it as you would chase after a great treasure? For me, it was this awesome woman. For some people, it's material things. I was doing marriage counseling one time, pre-marriage counseling. One of my favorite things, a lot of people don't know this, before we came here to seminary, I was a worship pastor at the church I grew up in. And you're like, Andrew, I've never seen you sing or play guitar. That's true. I needed a break in a bad way. And God was so gracious in giving me that break. But I was doing some marriage counseling, pre-marriage counseling, and I asked them, I said, hey, where are you guys at in life? What are your goals in life? And one of my great joys was marrying non-believers to each other. This might be controversial. I have no idea. I think we're supposed to be equally yoked, right? So Christians with Christians. Non-believers, well, I mean, you can't marry a Christian, so a non-believer. And so one of the requirements was we had to have at least 6 weeks of marriage counseling, which was actually just me preaching the gospel for 6 weeks. I would be like, hey, I don't know how to do marriage without Jesus. Y'all are sinners. Every week it was the same conversation. I asked him, I said, hey, where are you guys at in life? What are your goals? And the husband, it struck me, I'll never forget, he goes, Andrew, we've already done a lot of the big things, and we're getting close to a few others. We've already got the big TV. We're getting ready to buy a boat. We've got the house that we like. And as he's listing these things off, it was almost like there was this unwritten list of things you have to have in life to be happy. I was blown away. I just never thought about it like that. And my eyes were really opened. For them, they were sacrificing a lot in their relationship to get these treasures in life. Are we pursuing things? The answer is yes, we are. Are we pursuing the right things? I don't know. Proverbs 2 here tells us to pursue wisdom like a treasure, like silver. To pursue it actively, sacrificially. I'm going to sell everything I have to buy that pearl. I'm going to change who I am to the core to get this girl to go out with me. Are we pursuing wisdom with that kind of fervor? I absolutely love the way this chapter's is laid out. Look at verse 4. It says, if you seek it like silver. This is the first time the if-then clause is introduced to this chapter. If you seek it like silver. So far we've got, what are they? Be receptive to wisdom, be attentive to wisdom, be calling for wisdom. But it's not until we get be seeking wisdom that we see if. This conditional clause, this if. Like, if you do this, what comes after if? What's the next part of that clause? What's the next word that always comes? Then. If this is true, then this is true. If I do my homework, the girl will say yes, right? If, then. Look at this. If you seek it like silver and search for it as for hidden treasures. Verse 5, then you will understand the fear of the Lord. It lays it out. Verse 9, then you will understand righteousness and justice. Do you see that? We don't start to get wisdom until we seek it wholeheartedly, until we seek it like we would hidden treasures. What does James say? Can somebody look up James 1, 6 through 8? Somebody look that up and be willing to read it. Whew, that's a lot, Andrew. I know. Yoki here in the back. Thank you, Yoki. James chapter 1, verses 6 through 8. This is where my mind goes when I think about this.
But let him ask in faith, with no doubting. For the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea that is driven and tossed by the wind. For that person must not suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways.
That's awesome. Can you read verse 5 for me too real quick, Yoki?
If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given him.
There we go. Thank you. I just wanted to bring verse 5 in to make sure we all see the context. James is actually talking about wisdom. And when we ask God, when we're seeking, he says, you have to be single-minded in this. You cannot be double-minded. Tossed to and fro. You can't be like, well, maybe. I'll tell you, I'll be a little more transparency. Man, you guys are going to see all the wickedness in me by the end of this class. The semester before I realized Tanya was the girl I really wanted to date, there were actually two others that I was thinking about. I was torn. There were 3 girls, and I was like, I don't know which one I want to date. And if you ask Tanya, I took her on a roller coaster ride. I was just really honest. And I was like, yeah, you're cool, whatever. And then the next day, I'm like, I'm not sure. I was tossed to and fro by the wind, right? Like, she couldn't tell if I liked her or not. And if we approach wisdom like that, we won't get it. And here's why we won't get it. Are you ready? Proverbs tells us why. Let's read verse 5. Then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. For the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. He stores up sound wisdom for the upright. He is a shield to those who walk in integrity, guarding the paths of justice and watching over the way of his saints. Notice who is the source. According to these verses, who is the source of wisdom? God is the source. Where is wisdom stored? Who stores wisdom? Who? The Lord. The Lord. Who gives wisdom according to these verses? The Lord. That's what we call a monopoly, right? He produces it, he stores it, and he distributes it. He's got the complete corner on the market of wisdom. It all comes from God. And do we see how God says we get it? How do we get wisdom? Who knows? How do we get wisdom? What have we learned here? Ask him. How do we ask? What are we seeing in this? Let's apply our knowledge. How do we ask? How do we get wisdom? He's got it. He makes it. He stores it. He distributes it. You can't get it anywhere else. This is a one-time deal. But wait, there's more. If you buy. How do we, sorry. Sometimes my mind just starts like, it's just like a rabbit trail and it just goes. How do we get wisdom? Pursue it. Seek it. What's that? Call out for it. There's an aggressiveness about our pursuit of wisdom. And when we pursue it that way, do we attain it? No. God gives it to us. There's an incredible humility about this transaction of wisdom. We are told to work hard for it. We are told to pursue it with vigor. But really, God's the one who gives. And as James tells us, God gives it freely to those who ask. We pursue it God's way. We do it God's way. We do what God tells us to do, and he's more than happy to give it to us. It's not easy. Doing what he tells us to do here isn't easy, but he's the one who does it.
I think it's really interesting, and you stop me if you're going to go there.
No.
I think it's really interesting that this description of the Lord as being the storehouse of wisdom. And you said earlier, you don't ask the Lord and attain wisdom. You ask the Lord and he gives you it. You seek it. You pour out yourself for it. And then he supplies it to you as you need it. There's an idea that you keep going to the Lord.
Yeah.
You keep seeking after wisdom from the Lord, and he supplies wisdom to you as you need it, as opposed to Solomon, who sought wisdom and got wisdom, but did not continue asking for wisdom all his life. We are called to continually pursue the Lord for wisdom, sell out for wisdom, which includes salvation.
Yeah. Man, Todd, I'm so glad you brought that up. I was not going to go there to my discredit. Thank you. That's so helpful, right? And I love the point about Solomon, because he got it instantly, and he did not continue in it. We have to continue to humbly seek it, continue to be trained in it. And it's a process. God gives it to us in increasing measure. It's not a one-time transaction. And ultimately, right, Remember Jesus, he's talking to probably the Pharisees. I don't remember. He's always talking to the Pharisees. When he's saying these things, he says, so blah, 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 Solomon, but I tell you one greater than Solomon is here. Right? Jesus is the ultimate picture of wisdom. Man, that's good. Thank you, Todd. And one more note about that section. Notice who God gives it to. He gives it to the upright. He gives it to those who are walking a skillful life. Are we applying the knowledge we have? That's where we get. That's the people that he gives it to. Verses 9 through 11. We got to keep moving because the second half of this chapter is thick. 9 through 11. Then you will understand, this is our second then statement. Then you will understand righteousness and justice and equity, every good path. For wisdom will come into your heart, and knowledge will be pleasant to your soul. Discretion will watch over you. Understanding will guard you, delivering you. And we'll stop right there. Notice the change in us that happens as wisdom starts to come to us, as God starts to give us wisdom. As you look at those verses, what has changed? What changes about humans? Who sees it? What changes? What's that? Understanding increases. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. What else? What else changes? Wisdom comes into your heart, and your heart starts to change. Good. Good. What's this? What's that? Your desires change. Yeah. Tanya and I, we've been married for maybe, 10 years or 11 years. And we had a massive argument. I mean, it was huge. Are you ready for what it was? God had changed my desires. Not for her. Not for her at all. She's awesome. He changed my desires towards learning. All of a sudden, he'd given me this insatiable desire to pursue higher education. I was like, oh, Lord, please no. I mean, I argued with him for a while. I was like, I don't want to go back to school. I hate school. I don't want that. And he changed my understanding of it. He's like, no, it's helpful. You need some more. You need some more knowledge there, Andrew. You're kind of a moron sometimes. And then he started to change my heart to the point of I couldn't go another day without pursuing this. It was out of control. And I was like, Tanya, I think I need to take some classes. I'm gonna do some online stuff and just see what happens. And she's like, whoa. I know where this goes. We've been down this road. I'm not interested. I know you. And I was like, babe, you don't understand. Like, I can't go on without doing this. God had changed my desire. It took a while. The change was so drastic, it took a while for her to realize that it was real. And then she did, and now we're here, right? But God changes our desires. What's the worst food in the world to eat? What? Ooh, that's good. That's good. What else? What else is worse than liver? Fish. Oh, maybe. What else? Nuts. And you're nuts. That's what. What else? What else is the worst food? Y'all haven't said the worst one yet. What's a really bad food? Anchovies. And it's getting closer. Anchovies. What else? Crow. Yeah, crow. Nobody likes to eat crow. What else? Come on, you guys. Tomatoes. Clearly, tomatoes are the worst. I don't think there were tomatoes in the Garden of Eden. I'm convinced that they were part of the punishment, right? You're like, you got to be kidding me. And I know everybody likes tomatoes. I just can't do them. My grandma made me eat one time. I was like, Grandma, please, no, you don't understand. And she's like, you have to eat that. You're at my house, at my table. And I'm like, Grandma, please, And I knew Grandpa would hold me down and stick that tomato down my throat if I didn't listen to Grandma. I mean, I don't know if he would have. I don't know. It was on the table. It was possible. And I was like, Grandma, no. And so I ate it. It almost came back at the table. I was like, I just can't do tomatoes. Somebody over here, do you like liver? And somebody said liver. You like liver. Oh, you don't like liver. It's the worst food. Does anybody like liver? Okay, a few people. See, we all have a little bit different tastes, a little bit different palates. Different things are edibly, logically pleasant to us. That's a word I made up. No one mentioned what? Sugar. Sugar. I like sugar. Too much, obviously. I know, right? He changes the desires. Can you imagine? I can't imagine a world where I wake up liking tomatoes. And I want to like tomatoes. They look refreshing. They look delicious. But I know better. I know they're not. I know they're not refreshing. I know they're not delicious. But verse 10, and knowledge will be pleasant to your soul. As we're going to see in Proverbs a lot, we are born in ignorance. We are born in foolishness. The idea that knowledge is pleasant to our soul, it's kind of one of those things. It's like, wait, what? Foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child, but the rod of reproof drives it far from him. We're born in foolishness. It's a part of who we are. But as we seek wisdom, and as God starts to give it out to us, He changes what we want. See, it starts out with discipline. And then God starts to give us a little bit, and desire follows. Verses 12 through 22. This is going to be a common way Proverbs lays things out. This is epic warning, incredible warning. Wisdom, understanding guards you, delivering you from the way of evil, from men of perverted speech, who forsake the paths of uprightness, to walk in the ways of darkness, who rejoice in doing evil and delight in the perverseness of evil, men whose paths are crooked and who are devious in their ways. Notice how opposite that is of verses 5 through 10. Do you see the incredible just polarity here? I mean, it's the extreme on both sides. Wisdom is going to take you down a path that leads to righteousness by righteousness. Folly is going to take us down a path of wickedness that leads to wickedness and ultimately to death. Whereas the way of wisdom leads to life. That's the whole premise of the book of Proverbs. Everything right there. All right, remember last week we talked about, as we read through this, is this passage talking about the way that leads to death, or is it talking about the way that leads to life? Wisdom is knowledge applied. It is skillful living. And so as I gain knowledge, am I applying it rightly? Am I applying it in such a way that leads me to death, or am I applying it in such a way that leads to life? I think it's possible for us to have a lot of knowledge in the Bible, of God, and misapply it in a way that leads towards death. Wisdom is knowledge rightly applied, properly applied. That's why we have to pursue humility so much. Because all the knowledge, puffed up and proud, with no grace, no compassion, no love. What's Paul say we are if we have all the knowledge but no love? What's he say? How's he lay that out? 1 Corinthians 13. How's he lay that out? Clanging cymbals, right? We can speak with the voice of men and of angels, but without love, you're a clanging cymbal, a resounding gong. Wisdom is knowledge applied. It protects us from the crooked way, from evil men. One thing I appreciate about Proverbs, and I don't know if it's just because God continually reveals to me how wicked I am and how desperately I need Jesus. I appreciate that Proverbs keeps going. I appreciate that it doesn't stop here with, this is a very PC section in Proverbs. Very politically correct. Well, it'll protect you from the paths of unrighteousness. You can't get in a lot of trouble saying that. It'll protect you from people who rejoice in doing evil. It protects you from that. But it goes further because God knows our hearts, and he knows how he made us, and he knows how he designed us. And it goes further to our motives and our secret passions, our secret desires that we don't always share. And I don't think that this next section is only about sexual deviance. I think it's primarily about that, and we see that topic come up over and over and over again in Proverbs. Because that is something that just, as human beings, we are so susceptible to. Right? God made sexuality as a beautiful thing in a beautiful spot. And we've all heard the analogy, but just like a fire that's meant to keep us warm and to cook and to, as soon as it gets out of bounds, it causes such destruction in our lives and in our world. And Proverbs doesn't shy away from that. And so we're not going to either, right? Right? It's so sad whenever we hear about people that are falling to this. It's in the news all the time. It's so sad. And so we're not gonna shy away from this, because I don't think that by not talking about it, I don't think that Satan lets up on us. Oh, those guys, they're not talking about sexual sin, so we're just not gonna tempt them. Let's leave that church alone. Let's not tempt them with it. That's not how temptation works, right? So the Bible goes there, we go there. Look at how Proverbs kind of ratchets us up a little bit. We'll be delivered from all this wickedness, from that wicked path. But specifically, look at the warnings. Look at the depth. So you will be delivered from the forbidden woman, from the adulteress with her smooth words. Notice the similarity to verses 1 and 2. My son, if you receive my words, if you treasure up my commandments within you, if you're actively listening to me, this is the antithesis of wisdom. This is Lady Folly. This is actively calling to us. For smooth words. Verse 17, who forsakes the companion of her youth, right? The fire's outside of the fire ring now. The fire that runs the engine in the car is no longer contained to the engine block. She's forsaken the companion of her youth. She's taken the fire out of where it's supposed to go, and now it's destructive. And she forgets the covenant of her God. Verse 18, for her house sinks down to death, and her paths to the departed. None who go to her come back, nor do they regain the paths of life. Proverbs is not calling us to be wise as we pursue the path of wickedness. Proverbs is telling us, no. The path of wickedness always leads to death. There's no return from the path of wickedness. There's nothing we can do to come back from it. No. We start out here, God, which way do we go? We have to take the path of righteousness. This $40 reminds me that even though this was the path I was on, I'm not bound to that path. None return. Except through Christ. When we find ourselves on this path, we call out to wisdom. Wisdom, help us. We call out to Christ. Christ is the only one who can save us from this path. And we all know that we start out on that path, don't we? Sin is in us from birth. If you don't believe me, man, come and hang out with my 2-year-old for a little while. That girl's a wicked little sinner. And she gets wickeder by the minute. I mean, it's bad. She needs Jesus so bad. We are born on the path of destruction. Proverbs is warning us, hey, live wisely, live skillfully. When you go down that path, it always leads to death. Every single time. Christ gets us off of that path. Wisdom implores us. It pleads with us. Walk down the path of righteousness. It leads to good places. Verse 20. So you will walk in the way of good and keep to the paths of righteousness, for the upright will inhabit the land, and those with integrity will remain in it. But the wicked will be cut off from the land, and the treacherous will be rooted out of it. The only way to life is through righteousness, right? And we all know that comes from Jesus. Wisdom implores us to walk in that way. So today, we ask, am I listening to wisdom, to Lady Wisdom, or am I listening to Madam Folly? Who has my ear? Who have I trained my ear to listen to? When I come back up to verses 1 through 4, be receptive to, am I receptive to wisdom, or am I receptive to Madam Folly? Am I attentive? Have I trained my ears to hear wisdom, or have I trained them to hear Madam Folly? Do I call for wisdom, or do I call for Madam Folly? Do I seek wisdom, or do I seek Madam Folly? Father, please help us as we look at these two paths, God, as we hear these two voices calling. God, train us to hear wisdom. God, train us to hear from you. God, train us to reject pleasure, to reject sin, to reject what we want. God, change our desires so that we'll desire you and we'll desire wisdom and knowledge and living rightly. God, we need your help. We know that we're not there. So we humbly ask these things. In your name we pray. Amen. Thanks for coming today. You are loved. Todd's going to be teaching the next 2 weeks, so that'll be exciting. I won't be with us next week because I'll be on my way to Chicago with my daughter. So we'll see you. I'll see you in a couple weeks. Thank you. She wants to go on the motorcycle. Pray for my wife's nerves.